The action begins with an ordinary donggang school, from which two students are coming from. One of them says his friend finished studying quickly and then just waited for classes to end. But the boys were distracted by an unusual noise of machinery. It was military equipment. There were students sitting in one of the SUVs talking amongst themselves. Those students who have completed the class have discussed it. The girls say the guys in the cars are cool, and they themselves say they are from the School of Heroes. The Heroes School logo was emblazoned on the cars. As they say, it all started without any foreshadowing. Suddenly, portals in the sky began to open and dragons began to fly out of them. According to scientific facts that were discovered later, there was an Earth-like world in outer space. But because of the catastrophe that happened there, the world collapsed and its debris flew to Earth and began to blend in with the environment. This phenomenon was called the merger. 17% of the Earth was lost, and the lost areas began to be called the dungeons. People did not want to just give up territories and fought for them. We are shown one of the monsters. It's a horned horror. It's one-horned. The stronger the monster, the more horns it has. This monster was attempted to be attacked by one of the soldiers in the dungeon grounds. Except that in addition to destruction, they also brought their own rules, and thus humans and monsters could now fight on equal terms. The soldier dumbfounds the monster by testing his strength. Everyone has these skills now, just all different. People with such abilities were able to control their power better through training. Such people organized elite troops to return the dungeon zone to the people, and they became known as hunters. Now the age of dungeons and hunters is upon us. Even during the lifetime of one generation, educational schools were organized, where future hunters were trained. Those two students, just discussing it, they say that this school is where hunters take the dungeon exam. Only the students were distracted by the admiring cries of the girls admiring the apprentice of this school. They admired a half-elf named Che Diav. He is 17 years old and has great potential. His father is a hunter, and his mother is an elf. One of the guys resents the fact that he's pulling all the girls' attention, and his friend says he has a temper. There was another student walking behind them, and his name is Cha Ryung. The guy with glasses says that Lee Yun-jin called him out at karaoke. A guy walks past them and says he's not going to karaoke because he has some business to attend to. The guy with the temper wanted to call him out, only Cha Ryung punched him in the side and just walked away. The student with glasses says to think first before talking to Cha Ryung because he has a reputation. We are shown a flashback where Cha Ryung is taking care of his father in the hospital. He has huge medical bills. He was walking down the street further, but he got a message on his phone that he had to come to work. An order had come in. Cha Ryung was still walking past the convoy, and Che Diao paid attention to him, except it looked like he was imagining it. Meanwhile, he arrives at an abandoned subway station. He is met by Im Jae-hwan. He is 37 years old and is a broker. No sooner does the protagonist say hello than the man with white skin starts yelling at Im Jae-hwan. He calls Cha Ryung a minnow and says he wants a good opponent. Cha Ryung recognizes the man behind this uncle. It's Lee Pil Gyu. He had 81 raids in the dungeon. He is 34 years old and a former silver rank hunter currently working for this uncle. Except behind the insults, we're told that Cha Ryun, he's 17 years old and he's a dungeon smuggler with 371 raids. In between, we are told that the hunters have to pay taxes on the treasure they took from the dungeon and the smugglers are taking it out for nothing. Cha Ryung, meanwhile, was just warming up for the fight. It turns out that Lee Pil Gyu was fired for beating up his co-worker who was constantly in his way. Cha Ryung jokingly says that Lee Pil Gyu got rid of the trash. He smiled and even laughed a little about this situation while he was decided to be hit by Lee Pil Gyu. Except that Cha Ryung had noticed that Lee Pil Gyu was attacking at random. The protagonist replies to him that he will deliver a light strike, except this stunned Lee Pil Gyu. Then he rips off his shirt and Im Jae-hwan remarks, "It looks like Lee Pil Gyu was tank." In between, they talk about how hunters have their own classes, and Lee Pil Gyu is a tank. This is the class with the highest defense. He is not afraid of bullets. Lee Pil Gyu had built up his muscles, increased his attack, and also made his skin steely. And after that, he hit the floor. Cha Ryung, on the other hand, just jumped up to avoid the blow. That uncle was picked up by Im Ji-hwan, who asked if he was okay. But at the same time, Im Ji-hwan remained unhappy that Lee Pil-gyu trashed their workspace. Cha Ryung just dodges the punches, except Im Ji-hwan tells him to finish quickly or he'll cut his salary. The protagonist decides to deal with him quickly. He takes a steel pipe and remembers the weakness of all tanks. If you hit one point, his defenses will collapse. Everyone used to think that the tanks were invincible, except that Cha Ryung only throws one punch. After this blow, Lee Pil-gyu fell down without strength. The protagonist said that he had broken his shield for nothing. Lee Pil-gyu's technique reminded him of his father, who is also a tank. We are transported back to the childhood of Chae Ryong, who recalled that his father was the best hunter ever. His father's name was Yu Song, and he was from the first generation of heroes who became the first hunters. Those times were the most difficult for the first hunters. They didn't know monsters and who where dwells. They didn't know how to fight monsters, what they were called, what class they were. The hunters of that time had no good weapons. They had to fight at random. But somehow they managed to defeat the monsters. They gained experience to give to the next generations. Yu Song became the first hunter who was able to defeat the dragon. He was given the nickname Dragon Killer. This moment went down in history. Only Yu Song himself was feeling ill. He was sick. The cause of his illness was poison. At that point, it was impossible to cure. In all this time, his physical condition had reached its limit, and the colleagues he was protecting. They took advantage of his illness and took credit for his war record. As time went on and he was tormented by illness and mental trauma, it was no longer possible to recognize that first hero in him. Meanwhile, Cha Ryung is already done with Lee Pil-gyu. He said that if Lee Pil-gyu brags about beating his colleague, then he is low level. Cha Ryung said that there are only two true cases of hunters resigning: if the hunter has not returned from a raid, and if the hunter is in poor physical condition. Meanwhile, Im Jae-hwan negotiated a payment of twice as much for insulting them and also for destroying the workroom. Afterward, the guys were resting after the fight, and Im Jae-hwan said that whether Cha Ryung had heard of Heavenly Wasp. The Sky Wasp is a monster that is known as the most dangerous monster in the entire world, and their territory is recognized as the most dangerous. Besides the board, that uncle also told of a raid in that area, supported by the military and 7 white-ranked hunters. Their goal was to destroy the wasps, but it didn't work out. But they did manage to hunt down the mother wasps. One of these 7 hunters appropriated the Royal Oz jelly that they feed the womb with and smuggled it out of the dungeon. Im Jae-hwan says that he has seen it several times and has heard that the man who eats this jelly will be able to heal all his wounds. Meanwhile, all the nooks and crannies and passageways that lead to the dungeons must be controlled. Only the smugglers have their own passageways. Im Jae-hwan opens the passage and tells Cha Ryung to be careful, except Cha Ryung hesitates. Im Jae-hwan pulls him aside and asks him, "A potion that can revive a dead person. Do you have a problem with those words?" The protagonist says that it's only an approximation, but if it can save his father, he'll get it. Cha Ryung opens the gate and walks out into a huge dungeon like another world. There are only 2 large dungeons, the first that merged with the island and the second that merged with the jungle. Well, this dungeon is one of the easiest. It merged with the outskirts of Seoul. Here is a low level of danger. District Old Boram. Im Jae-hwan recalls Cha Ryung's assignment to check out the supposed scene and bring back the goods of the smuggler who was injured by the sky wasps. Cha Ryung goes downstairs and notices that the forest is filled with an odor that other monsters will flock to. The protagonist was right. There were monsters pulling down on this place that shouldn't be here. Hiding between the trees was Jin Saram, who was in Hero High School her first year. She thought the midterms wouldn't be difficult, but she didn't expect to see that monster that shouldn't be in this place. She had a simple task. She needed to collect the coins that were hidden around the dungeon. This is a practice exam where the low-level dungeon is inhabited by weak monsters that don't have much strength or intelligence. Old Borame. They call this place the beginner's hunting ground, except that she felt a glance of... It was that huge monster. It's still unknown who it was. It decided to attack her, but she dodged. Even in such a difficult position, she decided to attack him back. It was Titanium Monkey. It has 3 danger stars and 4 arms. She shot 3 arrows at him, except she didn't count. Such arrows are useless against the Titan Monkey. She was only walking away from him, but he was chasing after her, Jin Se-rom trying to find his weak spot. Jin Se-rom decides to use his magic to defeat Titan Monkey and puts his maximum energy into it. She is a mage archer hero and is able to energize any arrow. This arrow she charged to blast. There was a loud explosion that should have disarmed Titan Monkey, but it would be enough to destroy the Titan Monkey if he hit it. He dodged it. Titanium Monkey jumped down and started to catch up with Jin Se-rom, and when she almost caught up with her, the monkey was bombarded by the blow that Cha-ryong threw at it. The protagonist hit the chin. Though he wanted to hit the forehead, he realized it wasn't enough for her. Cha-ryong took out the stunning torch from his bag and attacked the monkey. At that, he shouted, "Chi Se-rom, she needs to close her eyes." Cha-ryong aimed his stun torch at Monkey when Monkey wanted to hit him. A very bright flash, Cha-ryong also closed his eyes to avoid going blind. Stun torch is made from the scales of deep sea fish and is currently illegal because many people have lost their eyesight because of it. Cha-ryong tells Ji Se-rom that he helped her, and then everyone is responsible for themselves from there. Just as she ran after him, he stopped and knocked her to the ground. She says she guesses he's a smuggler, but she also wants to thank him for saving her and hire him. Cha-ryong says he doesn't care what rich kids do. He doesn't want Ji Se-rom by his side. However, she offers the Blood of Enkill artifact and says it's an advance. If Cha-ryong helps her pass the exam, she'll pay the rest. Cha-ryong is surprised that she doesn't want to take him prisoner, however. He said to leave because Titan Monkey. It doesn't have that long of a stun torch effect on it, so it attacked them first. In midair, Cha-ryong gave his spear to Chi Se-rom and told her to put the same magic as the arrowhead. She wanted to run away, but she put her remaining magic into the spear tip, to which Cha-ryong said it was enough. Cha-ryong used his charged spear with magic. He struck the Titan Monkey. From such a blow, her teeth cracked, her chin burned, and Cha-ryong's glasses broke. He says to himself that in a battle with a monster, it is not strength that matters, but sensation and ability that will help deliver the decisive blow that all students should have. We are transported back in time to the silver class past, to the school. More little Chi Se-rom, playing with her friends. Her friends envied her because she had everything she wanted. The company that ranks 4th in business circles is Chinsen Group. The heir to this company married an elfess, a member of a tribe from another world. Their marriage is where Chi Se-rom was born, and she really wanted to become a hunter. Only she'd been told she couldn't make it. She had too little elven blood in her. Her father's name is Jin Seong Gyu, and he says he supports her in this endeavor. It's her path. She tries really hard and doesn't just give up. It shows her character. Chi Se-rom has had it all since she was a kid. Wealth, fame, genes, but that can make her a laughingstock in no time. She can't stand to be treated like this for so long. Meanwhile, Titan Monkey fell to the ground. Finally, the Titan Monkey was defeated. Cha-ryong called out to Chi Se-rom. Ji Se-rom says that can't happen since they're about the same age. Cha-ryong only now realized that his glasses were broken. Im Jae-hwan told the main character that the glasses are very expensive. They have 4 kinds of magic on them, and they hide the identity. Ji Se-rom asks Cha-ryong if he's at their school, to which he replies that it's nonsense and asks for an advance. He's picked up the advance, and Ji Se-rom offers to help him get into the School of Heroes, except he responds with a curt refusal. Cha-ryong tells her that he's self-taught, and to prove it, he throws his learner's card in her face. In response, he asked her to show his ticket, and took it away so she wouldn't change her mind about asking for help. Beyond that, he asks her to come closer. Instead of a contract, he offers to make a proof of accomplice, because if anything, she will receive the same punishment as the smuggler. They got a cute picture of them with Titanium Monkey in the background. Cha-ryong finds out what needs to be done, and Ji Se-rom says to collect the coins that are hidden in different corners of the exemplary field in 6 hours. She also needs to find the box with the coin pattern to confirm her identity. She has already found 1 coin, and she needs to find a second one to pass the exam. The second coin is in the Eugene Mall, and Cha-ryong realizes that this is the same place where the Heavenly Wasp dwelled. Except he tells her he wants the royal jelly, not the sky wasp herself. The smell of this jelly attracts other monsters. and Chae-rom sets a large sum of money for this coin. Chae-ryung agrees. He said he would get that coin safely and immediately ran to the mall, and Chae-rom is surprised how fast he is. Chae-rom asks the protagonist along the way where he is and who he learned it from, but he says he didn't do it all himself, but he was taught some things. Except when he swung over a fallen tree, he said, "Get ready. It was 2 cluster raptors. He has 2 danger stars. He's the first to rush in and target his weak spot. The protagonist pokes the cluster raptor's weak spot and it goes down. Chae-ryung watched his father's training as a child and learned the needle technique. The technique mobilizes everything you have, and this force should be directed at one weak point of the enemy. In all this time, he has mastered this technique to perfection, and Chae-ryung has a total of 3 of them. Chae-rom noticed an oddity. Usually class theraptors are in a group of 5 individuals, but here there were only 2. Chae-ryung says they need to rest a bit and move on. There will be plenty of monsters here soon. Chae-rom asks if the protagonist received any training as a child, to which he replies that he had been spying on one man's training. She was shocked by this, spied the training and learned the technique. The elf says that Chae-ryung annoys her. However, she gives him an ampule of endurance, which is very expensive. She says he better drink it now because they need the strength, but Chae-ryung decides to save it for later. He wants to sell it. Chae-rom was not happy about this after all. She gave it to him so he would have the strength to fight, and he just decides to sell it. She's picked up on the fact that Chae-ryung is very strange. She doesn't understand his motivation. To which Chae-ryung also parries, he doesn't understand her. She's very strange. Finally, they reach their destination, where Chae-ryung reminds them of their goals. They need to safely get what everyone needs out of them and get out of here. Chae-ryung said that she would follow his instructions without fail so they could survive, and they entered the mall. They were both shocked by what they saw. Multiple monster bodies, blood, both of them seeing such a thing for the first time. In the middle of all the bodies, there is only one monster sitting in the middle. Chae-rom swept up the fact that the monster's bodies are high level, which means he is stronger. This monster is called the chopping rib. Its danger level is about 3 stars. Chae-ryung decides to attack first using the needle technique, but chopping rib attacks him back and grabs his spear. The monster throws him over, and Chae-ryung releases his weapon. Unarmed, he decides to stab him right in the eye. The monster could not withstand such a blow and was defeated. Chae-ryung takes back his weapon and says he was left alive on purpose. When life threatened, the chopping rib emits a terrible scream, alerting other monsters. No sooner had they realized who could have done it than the hunter who had done it appeared. Hunter says there were more monsters than he thought, and once he dealt with them, he decided to rest. He also notes that they are too small for smugglers. Other than that, he goes downstairs and asks if Chae-rom is in hero school. She responds positively, but doesn't understand why it's necessary. Hunter, in turn, says he doesn't know what their alliance is, but he's sorry. They'll have to die together. Only Chae-ryung says it's not just a hunter. It's a villain who wants the royal jelly. The villain replies that he's lucky and he doesn't care about the consequences. He overheard one of his co-workers wanting to steal that jelly. He realizes that if that smuggler did hide jelly, it could be here. The villain attacked the smuggler who was carrying this jelly. It wasn't Heavenly Wasp. In front of Chae-ryung stood a true hunter who was different from the rest of the rabble he had met before. The protagonist tells Chae-rom to look for the coin, and in the meantime, he'll distract him. Only the hunter attacked first while Chae-ryung was talking to Chae-rom. The villain said they had a better chance of surviving together, so it was a waste for her to leave. Chae-ryung said that Hunter is talking nonsense and will find out who has a better chance. He miscalculated the trajectory of his opponent's sword, much to the hunter's surprise. The protagonist gave it a good stab, except he didn't take into account. The hunter used his own equipment. His name is Yang Do-kyung, and he has a gold rank. Meanwhile, Im Jae-hwan takes a bite of noodles and offers them to Uncle. Im Jae-hwan suggests that Uncle sit down because Lee Pil-gyu won't wake up for a while yet. Uncle says that Lee Pil-gyu lost because he bragged a lot, and he also heard that the hunters are fighting among themselves. Im Jae-hwan agrees with this. The higher the level, the further things can go. Anything can happen inside the dungeons, and no one forbids them. You could say you lost to a monster. In Lee Pil-gyu's case, he was not a high-level hunter to have the rights to beat up his colleague. For hunters, it's their gear, half of their powers, which improves them. Yang Do-kyung rushed forward again. He was very fast. Cha Ryong traveled about 20 meters before he stopped from his kick, and even after a second, Yang Do-kyung was already beside him. Hunter teases him, asks him what he can do. Let him show it. Yang Do-kyung wields a shadow jacket. It provides protection and support for physical strength at the expense of the user's blood, and he fought in a style they call berserk. Cha Ryong tried to look for weaknesses, but in between attacks, he took off his jacket. This was his favorite outfit. Cha Ryong chides the hunter that if he didn't have armor, then he would lose then. By doing so, he angered him. His opponent was in a hurry, but Cha Ryong decided to use a second technique. He also studied it by watching his father practice. The technique his father used was called the ripple. He uses his opponent's power against himself by reflecting it back. Cha Ryong would never have thought that this was a technique he would use against a human. He suggests that he surrender because from now on he won't beat him. Yang Do-kyung only responds with insults and picks up the dagger. With this dagger, he pierces his armor, saying that he will destroy Cha Ryong. Meanwhile, Chi Se-rom was able to find the cube where she confirmed her identity. She figured Cha Ryong wouldn't fight without an escape plan, and if she went back, nothing would change. Yang Do-kyung's backstory is that everything came easy to him. He was a genius and very capable. His successes were recognized by absolutely everyone, even his parents were proud of him. But there was one thing that annoyed him. He didn't get accepted into Hero High School. He realized that at that school they only looked at money, not ability. It felt like it wasn't his level, yet everyone was still proud of him. But when he became a hunter, he wasn't prepared for this. So another hunter came to his aid and dealt with the monster. He wasn't a genius or a chosen one. He was an ordinary man. Yang Do-kyung allowing armor to devour the blood that flows to his heart is the payment for destroying Cha Ryong. After that, he decided to continue attacking the protagonist. Cha Ryong realized that he was in a hurry again, and his speed wasn't that fast. He blocked his blow, though he was almost out of strength himself. To replenish his strength, he decides to use the stamina ampule and restore his strength. Yang Do-kyung asked why Cha Ryong was smuggling, but he didn't answer him. The protagonist drank the ampule and regained his strength and began to feel better. Cha Ryong decides to take the stamina. Hunter won't last long. He doesn't have enough blood. Only he catches up with him again, and the protagonist fails to fool him. At that moment, the magic arrow that Chi Se-rom had let fly into Yang Do-kyung. She herself didn't expect such a result from the explosion, as she has little energy. Cha Ryong, on the other hand, is impressed that Chi Se-rom didn't listen to him. Yang Do-kyung revealed his weak spot. He was damaged by the explosion. Cha Ryong lands a devastating blow to him. The needles move. Finally, the battle is over and he's alive, but Cha Ryong says not to worry about him. Cha Ryong repaid her debt for Titan Monkey, but he counted the two debts as one. In doing so, he made the girl very angry. Can't he just say thank you? The heroes go downstairs where they smell a sweet odor. The same smuggler stayed here forever. Cha Ryong isn't surprised by this state of affairs and picks up the briefcase. He decides to check what's inside the case, and upon opening it, they smell a very acrid odor. This design exuded a sweetish fragrance that makes you forget all thoughts. Cha Ryong commands that they need to get out of here before someone else arrives. They went up to the first floor of the mall and saw that Yang Do-kyung was missing. He yells at them that they will answer for what they did to him. Yang Do-kyung disappeared, was happy to survive and leave this place, only he was not happy for long. Already another titanium monkey had found him first, and now he couldn't escape. The heroes have seen it all and decide not to go that way. They will go another way.